So first we're in what would have been sort of ancient Israel, that area. And we're looking at the walls of Jericho. And these are great stone walls. And to give you some context, this is probably about what they would have looked like. We would have had a series of walls, 2 of them to be exact, one above the other. And this is simply an expansion of the city. As the city expands, they'll need a new set of walls. They'll keep the old ones as additional defense. And these walled cities are very, very common. Troy would have had them. Most of the Greek city-states, as we'll see, would have had them. Many of the Egyptian cities would have had them. And the interesting thing is, it requires skilled people to construct this wall. So as we look at the wall, we see that the outer edge of the wall is solid stone, and then inside is stone and rubble. But it's going to take people away from food production. It's going to take people away from hunting, from farming, from everything else. So we also know that there's going to need to be wealth. Someone's going to need to pay for these walls. And to give you some idea of scale, these walls are for the most part about 5 feet thick, 13 feet tall, with at least one 30-foot tower. And this is a great technological advancement. But why do you need walls? Well, since we have agriculture and consequently we have surplus, we therefore have wealth, which means people want to take your wealth. And you have warfare. You have no need of walls if there isn't warfare. So we're seeing the development of larger scale conflict here. And these walls are still standing, at least part of them. What you get with these ancient cities is oftentimes you'll hear reference when you read or research one of them to, for example, Troy 1, Troy 2, Troy 3. Those are iterations of a city. Those are sort of levels because cities tend to build on top of themselves. So the old walls will be found under the modern city. Basically, the city is sacked or the city is looted by an enemy. They'll destroy the city, and then when the city rebuilds, they simply build on top of the rubble of the old city. So you get these levels that you'll hear referenced. The next piece we're looking at is actually a human, although I use that term loosely, a human figure. This is about a 3-foot tall plaster statue, and this was buried with someone. This is known as a grave good or a burial cache. And basically, we bury things with people because they have some kind of value, usually in the afterlife, or value to the person. This could have been anything from a doll to an effigy to a fetish to a symbol of a god. We're not really sure. Now, the piece is made of plaster, but in the core we find twine and reed, sort of creating an armature for the plaster to stick to. And most of these figures that we find, these human figures, will lack any form of gender. And these are again from the Levant. We don't know why they lack gender. It might point towards a god, because we tend to see gods as genderless more often than we would depict people that way. The figure is detailed. It has eyes. They were probably clothed in some way at the time of burial, but of course that will disintegrate with time. And on top of this, we also know that the houses at the time were plastered and painted, much like your parents' home or your home. So what we think of as modern isn't always that modern. It's something that the ancient world may well have had.